Hey, welcome to Rob Paints Models. Today we're going to be wet blending a cloak. I'm going to be using Mr. IronSkull himself here, and I'm going to be painting his cloak as if it's a flat black matte cloth finish. I'm going to start by base coating the entire cloak with black, and I'm just checking to see where the highlights should go and where my shadows should go. I'm going to take some Liquitex slow dry medium, and I'm going to be mixing that about 2 parts paint to 1 part medium. So I've got my Skaven Black Dinge, which is my highlight colour, and my Abaddon Black, which is my shadow colour. And you can see they're quite translucent, but they're going to stay wet for a very long time. That's the key to this technique. So first I'm putting down a thin layer of Abaddon Black with my slow dry medium in. This is so that I've got something to mix my Skaven Black Dinge into on the model. Now I'm taking some Skaven Black Dinge, and I'm just sketching in where my highlights are going to go. I'm going to be painting them on the uppermost surfaces, which is the surfaces that are going to be catching the sunlight. And just sketching it in, you can see that the paint's still wet and they're mingling on the model, which is allowing me to create a little transition from the black into the Skaven Black Dinge. Now this is going to be a lot of a to and fro process. I'm going to be going back and forth between Skaven Black Dinge and Abaddon Black, just using them to blend the edges of the different transitions into each other. And because the paint stays wet, I've got a very long working time, so I can fiddle about with it until I'm happy with it. And then once I'm happy with it, I'll hit it with a hairdryer and it'll be dry, and I can start the process over again, building up the colour and building up the layers. The problem with wet blending is, because it takes a long time for the paint to dry, it can take a long time to build up the colour to the intensity that you want. So you have to let it all dry, preferably, a hairdryer helps, and then you can start the process over again, and then you can build up the intensity and the opaqueness of your paint for your highlights and your shadows. Now, a rookie mistake is to hold your model underneath your painting light source and paint where the reflections are shining back into your eyes. Now, that's not how this kind of surface would work, because we're going for a matte cotton surface. The light would diffuse over the entire surface and it wouldn't reflect back strongly, so you only want to paint the areas that you would be able to see if you were looking down on the model. So you can see after it's dried, the transitions are good, but they're not quite as intense as I want them to be. So I'm going to go back in with some more Skaven Black Dinge, and I'm going to start painting in some more highlights. This time I'm just starting with Skaven Black Dinge, so I get the paint where I want it, and then I'm going to start mixing in Abaddon Black in order to smooth out the transitions and feather the edges. I'm also going to create a little bit of texture and gradient on the bottom edge where the cloak will have frayed and the material might be thin or be more worn down. As you can see, I'm always painting the shadows into the undersides of the folds on the cloak, and the Skaven Black Dinge into the sides that are facing my light source. This is, in my opinion, actually a faster way to paint cloaks than, say, using washes and shades, because for a start, shades don't necessarily sit well, washes don't sit well on a cloak like this. Gravity tends to pull them down, and that actually has a tendency to make them build up on the upper surfaces of a cloak like this, and that's not what you want. That's not where shadows would occur. So it's better to paint them in, and wet blending is a great technique for doing that, because you can always maintain a smooth transition. It's also faster than just using glazes, although I will go back in with some glazes later, just in order to fix up any mistakes and reinforce shadows or highlights that need it with another colour. So now I'm taking some Storm Vermin Fur, and these are some of the glazes I was talking about. I'm using this to glaze in some brighter highlights and just push the contrast a little bit more on the very brightest areas of my cloak. As you can see, looking down on it, you should only be able to see those lit surfaces, and looking underneath it, you should only be able to see your shadows. Any areas that I make mistakes with the glazes, or need tidying up, or just need a bit more shadow, again, I can just go back in with my Abaddon Black and just glaze that into my shadows. So now I'm going to go through, and I'm happy with all my transitions. I'm just going to do a little bit of an edge highlight with some storm vermin fur. Also using this to create a little bit of texture along the frayed edges of the cloak. I'm also, once I've done some of the texture, I can go back in with my Abaddon Black and glaze that over the texture that I've just painted, and that will smooth the transition into the shadows, so it still looks like those areas are shadowed, they're not just lit where they shouldn't be lit. And now I'm just going in some Shabty Bone. I'm just making a few little more nicks and tears, a few little more scratches, building up some texture again on some other parts. This is more sporadic, mostly around the bottom of the cloak where all those big raggedy edges are. And this is the exact same process for the inside of the cloak as well. I didn't glue my cloak onto my guy here, so that I could take it off, turn it around and do the same process on the inside. But obviously the inside is mostly hidden by the actual model. And that's it. Wet blending cloaks. It's actually very fast, especially if you've got a hairdryer to speed up drying between layers. And I fully recommend it. It's very easy to practice on Games Workshop style cloaks because they've got lots of big smooth curves going on rather than lots of little folds. So it makes it very easy to figure out where the light should be shining. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like, share and subscribe to the channel. You can click the bell for the notifications for when I post a new video. And the next video will be Skeletons, which should be going up on Wednesday. And yeah, that's it. Bye!